Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to we're going to preview the UFC Fight Pass Invitational 8 that is headlined by Nick Rodriguez versus Michael Pixley. Also going to break down most of the other matches on that card. Very fun card. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine. To my co-host,
Cory.
How you doing, Cory?
Excellent.
Good to have you here, man.
Sunday fun day. Glad to be here.
What was the last show you previewed? You done a preview show recently.
Preview CJI.
That's what it was. We previewed CGI, and that was fun. So good to have you back on.
Appreciate it.
We don't have a ton of news this week. I think Miranda and I, or Zach and I last week, talked about everyone popping for steroids. There's been more people in IBGF that have popped for steroids. We will in like 2 weeks we'll have the full list of like who is the actual champion now. But so expect that in 2 weeks. Piece of news, there was an event that happened this weekend, Karate Combat 50 in Salt Lake City. It had Wagner Hosha, Carlos Sabana, AJ Agazarm, Peter Frank, Paulo Miao, Paulo Matavani, Mateus Costa, Daniel Slather. I can't find, it's Sunday afternoon as we're doing this, October 6th. I can't find the videos anywhere. I can't find the results anywhere. So we may get a chance to recap that next week, but we haven't seen it. I can't find anything for it, so... It's going to be another heavy preview show, but if we were ever going to have a heavy preview show, I think this is a good one to have, honestly. Nick Rodriguez and Michael Pixley, it really is, I think there's some really interesting dynamics to it, so if we have no other news, I think we just pop right into it and let's get into it.
Let's run it.
So, main event here. So, other matches we're going to talk about on this card are Renato Canuto versus PJ Barch. That should be fun. That's a rematch. Both guys, I think, are 1-1.
1-1.
Yep. We have Azaki Bahens versus Rolando Jr. We have Andy Varela and Dante Leon.
Banger.
Raquel Canuto versus Gabby McComb. I love when Raquel and Renato are on the same card. Like, it's really, I love seeing both of them at the same time. We also have Gabriel Souza and Josh Cisneros, and then some other matches on the card. But really, again, UFC Fight Pass has been doing a really good job with the matchmaking in a lot of their cards. There are like a lot of compelling matchups. We spent about an hour and a half on the pre-show here just talking through kind of points and what we wanted to see and like some of the dynamics of some of these matchups. And a lot of them are a lot more interesting than I had initially sort of thought. I was like, and then you kind of dig into the records, you dig into the style matchups, and like, oh, this actually might be a really interesting style matchup or an interesting rematch. So it should be fun. Let's jump right into it. Nick Rodriguez versus Michael Pixley. This is an odd one. I'm gonna give the context, Cory. Jump in whenever you want.
Sure.
I'll give the context for this. So Nick Rodriguez is coming off the Craig Jones Invitational, winning the above 80 kilogram division and the $1 million cash prize. Michael Pixley is coming off of ADCC. Did he medal in that? We just spent an hour and a half looking up all this. He has a hallmark win over Nicholas Margali, hits him with an Uchimata. Michael Pixley is from the Daisy Fresh, the Pedigo Submission Fighting Team with Jacob Couch, and that whole series with Daisy Fresh on Flow.
And for a while, Dante Leon.
And Dante, was he not there anymore?
Maybe.
Talk right into the, yeah, there you go.
Maybe. He may still be there.
And then we also have Pixley winning the ADCC trials to make it into that. Had kind of a controversial match with Adam Bradley. Adam Bradley, who was in CJI, who got taken out by Nick Rodriguez from the B team. And so it's a tale of kind of two guys that are in a similar weight class. I think Pixley is actually under 99 for most of his competition. Rodriguez is typically over 99 for most of his competition. So there's potentially a little bit of a size difference. But you brought up something interesting on the pre-show, which was, do we think, basically, as we were discussing, like, how big Michael Pixley actually was, and if he's cutting weight for 99, and, like, for years on the show, a big piece that we talked about with Rodriguez was the size difference. Like, is the opponent going to be bigger or smaller? Because although that really didn't, like, inform how Rodriguez was going to play it, it usually informed the options that were going to be available for his opponent. And so our discussion on the pre-show was like, well, how big is Michael Pixley? And you brought up, well, is he going up to 99 but like, so he doesn't have to fight Jacob Couch, his teammate, who had won the East Coast trials at an earlier ADCC trials?
Correct.
And
that was my point.
That was your point.
That's my point.
I mean, at least steal your point from you.
Go ahead.
And we watched a bunch of Pixley's matches, and we looked at like him versus Lovato, which is the match that I think when we talked about the dynamics and the style of this matchup, that was the match that we both sort of keyed into was going to be the one that was maybe not most analogous to this match, but where we really could clearly see some of the problems that Pixley may have with Rodriguez, because Lovato has some size parity.
Yes.
Looked kind of like maybe the bigger guy in that match. Again, Pixley's in a rash guard, Lovato's shirtless, so you can kind of, like, the physique isn't immediately comparable there, but Lovato is bigger. He's older now, but you could see that they both, at certain times in that match, played a really upright stance wrestling match. We've seen Pixley do this pretty much in every single match that he's been allowed to do it in. He will play in the Margali match, in the Adam Bradley match, in the Dashigoto match at Trials. Like, Michael Pixley will continually play a very upright stance, hand fighting, not even really heavy on the head, outranged match. And we were talking about, do we think Rodriguez is going to be willing, is going to be willing to play that? Because Rodriguez, we think is going to be a little bigger. Not significantly bigger, but we think he'll have 10 to 15 pounds on Pixley.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy 10 to 15, yeah.
I think that Pixley is probably a little taller than Rodriguez. I don't know exactly. Pixley's a tall guy. Rodriguez is a tall guy too, but Pixley from like Lovato, I think he's taller than Lovato. And I think Lovato and Rodriguez are similar height. So this is me very much talking out of my ass on this one. Do we think that Pixley and Rodriguez, like when they match up, on paper, Pixley is a much more credentialed wrestler than Rodriguez. Like you look at his record, most of what comes up is his wrestling record. You know, he's very good. Rodriguez has some wrestling, but has really leaned into the last couple of years, not really being a traditional wrestler, having those tools, but much more of a jiu-jitsu guy now than he was when he won ADCC Trials in 2019. So, Corey, I'm gonna kind of throw it to you here. Do you think that Nick Rodriguez, for kind of long stretches of the match, is going to be willing to engage, or you think that's kind of what Pixley wants? That's kind of the match we see that Pixley wants, is he wants a long, drawn-out, standing matchup. Do we think Rodriguez will play that?
I think that's Pixley's road to victory. It's a long, drawn-out, stand-up match. I think the problem with that, Nicky Rod is used to standing up with, I guess, people that are game.
Haisam Rita.
To stand up.
You have Haisam Rita and you have Declan Moody in your gym, like...
Daily. So you're going against a big guy, and from time to time, Craig Jones when he shows up.
When Craig Jones, I think Craig Jones, they were talking about on the Simple Mad podcast, has not been to B Team like this year. Like he's been gone like the entire, which is he was in the Ukraine, he was in Thailand, he was in he was in Bali. He's been everywhere except for B Team. I think they described him as the absentee father of the gym.
That's hilarious. But I think. Nicky Rod will be game to stand up, but I think he's quick to also sit the guard and go for that quick low single. Yeah. And I think Pixie is susceptible to that unless he really has keyed in on that with Nicky Rod. Nicky Rod will sit the guard pretty quickly, and because of his long arms and his low center of gravity from all those years of wrestling, I think Pixley he's primed for the picking for that low single. And then once Nicky Rod gets the top, I think he's on to the races. I think it's over. That's
I think the big dynamic for the matchup is if Pixley can keep this at range and keep this sort of in that fencing match that we've seen him have a bunch, you know, even the Tator match at ADCC, that's sort of what we wanted. I want to key back into the Margali match as we talk about this, because I think weirdly enough, Haisam Rita and Nicholas Margali have a really similar, I didn't pick up on the pre-show, really similar kind of tendencies when they stand. They tend to stand up very high into you and be very willing to like Uchimata, judo, because again, Haisam spent so long in Japan.
Sure.
Like a lot with a lot of judo players, and a lot of that, especially in Haisam's brown belt career. You saw like a lot of foot sweeps. You saw a lot of like standing judo in a way that kind of looks similar to what Michael Pixley does. That big Uchimata versus Margali at ADCC. I think that is Pixley's pathway to victory. And then you have stuff that Pixley does well. Like Pixley has a really good Darce game. We saw that at ADCC versus Trator, where like, again, most of the match is this standing match, and then Trator sitting and kind of pulling and coming forward, and then late in the match taking a low, kind of bad shot.
Right.
And Pixley goes, cool, locks up a Darce or an Anaconda. I think it was a Darce. A Darce, and then finishes Trator. It's like, okay, cool. And then the Margali match with Margali kind of like playing weirdly into his range, getting Uchimata, tearing his shoulder, and getting Darce because his arm was done. When it's like, does he get Darce without the arm? Like, who knows? Regardless, like, he had a big injury and got Darced. Other matches that we've seen Pixley finish are kind of few and far between. Like,
yeah, I don't know if there's enough for me. I don't know if there's enough data points for me to really, for me to kind of give Pixley the edge. I mean, from what I've seen.
Yeah, that's really oddly enough with the matchmaking, which kind of makes it more interesting on my end. Is we have Pixley, who you brought up on the show. You kept bringing this up in the pre-show. I thought it was funny. He's like, he's an unknown quantity. He's an unknown quantity. And I'm like, I mean, is he really? You're like, and you had a really good point, which was, yeah, man, we've seen him in trials, we've seen him in ADCC, and we've seen him wrestle. But other than that, like, we don't have a long storied history of footage that we can watch for him in jiu-jitsu against really high level. And that was the piece that you keyed on. I was like, correct. Yeah, he has all this footage, but how does he look against the highest level guys? Like, that is a big X factor. And to your point earlier, which was, at any point in time, he can have big jumps and leaps and development into his jiu-jitsu game that we are suddenly like, oh, Pixley can do a new thing, right. which is the story of Nick Rodriguez. Like, sure. Nick Rodriguez, I think we watched him do either a Fight Pass Invitational, the early one, or it was the last EBI that he did, where suddenly it was like he pulled guard and suddenly he had a bunch of new tools that we all went like,
whoa, what happened?
Oh shit, Nicky Rod can play guard now. And I think it was, he was talking about it. He goes, I pulled guard, and Eddie Bravo goes, oh shit. But that is the thing, is like, at any point in time, given sort of how raw Pixley is in a lot of the jiu-jitsu matches, like, he can add a new skill and a new thing. Right. My big concern is that the way that Nick Rodriguez does the low single, like, if Nick Rodriguez, I think it's not Nick Rodriguez's best option here to stand up with Pixley. That's gonna give Pixley an opportunity to do what he does. We watched it like with the Mergali. Like, what Pixley does really well is that Uchimata, that counter throw, the counter snap down into the Darce. And if he's gonna be able to sub Rodriguez, which I don't really think he will be able to, that is where it's going to happen from.
I agree. I think that's where it has to happen, from the feet, from a quick Uchimata, from something to get Nicky Rod on his back or to get him down. Nicky Rod is going to probably expect that, because I'm sure everyone's seen Pixley,
but the lack of footage, like, you only have a couple of matches that you really want to look at, like some of his earlier trials matches versus like round 1, round 2 trials guys. Right. It's like, okay, how much can I really gain from, like, we saw him finish, we saw Pixley finish a rear naked choke with no hooks in. I was like, okay, like, how much is that really, like, that's probably not something Nick Rodriguez really has to worry about.
Right, because we know Nicky Rod is good he's a great escape artist from the back. I mean, we've seen him in EBIs. He's a
we've seen a lot of stuff where you see Nick Rodriguez get squeezed on, he's just like, nah.
No,
and
not
you're
today.
Like, how did he get, he just wants it. Like, him and his brother both.
Don't need that arm. Nope, don't need the neck. I'm getting out of this right now.
Yeah, he has an ability to, like, ball himself up and yank through. And I'm curious, though, because on the counter to that, the Darce is one of those weird things that actually is really hard to, like, snake and roll out of in the way that Nick Rodriguez rolls out of it. And the question is, if Pixley is able, like, for some reason, Nick Rodriguez, we can talk about the mechanism that Nick Rodriguez does that low single from, like, the wrestle up.
Right.
If Pixley can actually get there, we did see him follow Trattor really, really well at ADCC and his ability to kind of finish that Darce. Do we think that he's faster? Do you think that he is going to be faster in the turn with Rodriguez, or be able to get his legs back around Rodriguez in a sequence like that?
Well, I think if he gets Nicky Rod in the Darce, I think Nicky Rod might be in trouble.
Yeah.
I think he might be in trouble. I mean, like, that might be Pixley's A game. You know what I mean?
And I think we know it's so once you sub Mergali and you sub 2 guys at ADCC.
Correct.
Both by that.
Right. So if he gets Nicky in the Darce, Nicky Rod's in trouble. Now, granted, will he be able to lock it up completely? I don't know, but he might have enough squeeze and enough just technique to really cinch it in pretty tight.
Yeah.
So who knows? I mean, Nicky Rod's an escape artist, but like I said, once you get something fully locked on someone, no matter how good they are, I don't know.
That's the big X factor.
That's the big question mark.
Yeah, that's the big X factor for the match. Is like, well, can Pixley, like, because I don't think, like, we've talked about, this is sort of Pixley's method to victory. It's like low, force Rodriguez to come in on him, kind of exactly like the Trattor match. Like, force him to come in and then get him, or and get Nick Rodriguez to kind of like, oh, I can take this guy, come in close, make maybe a tactical error, which we really don't see from Nick Rodriguez ever. Actually, I'm trying to think about one match, like maybe a little bit here and there versus Victor Hugo, and maybe in one of the earlier Roberto Jimenez matches. Like there's maybe a tactical, like, maybe
or maybe against Gordon.
Yeah. Even then, I wasn't necessarily a tactical error.
He doesn't make very many mistakes, especially as of late.
Yeah, makes very, very few mistakes. And it's like, I think to see Pixley be able to force a mistake on Rodriguez, it's just like a weird... It would be surprising to do that. Now, Pixley, one thing that Pixley does have that we didn't talk about in the pre-show much is he does have a really good kind of sneaky arm drag that he will use to get your back. But because of the way that Pixley tends to take the back, we've seen him in a bunch of matches sort of seemingly struggle to get his second hook in. Like, he tends to not be able to lock the back and, like, score into a scoring hook position on elite level guys or, like, even, like, really good level guys. Dashi Goto couldn't do it. Didn't do it to Adam Bradley. Like, he just can't quite, and he's a long dude, so there's a lot of leg to get over, but we don't see him be able to punch that second hook in. So I think the option for a rear naked choke for Michael Pixley here is low. A, Rodriguez is amazing at getting out of those. And B, Rodriguez, you kind of really need to lock him down and like have a sustained squeeze in order to get him. And I just don't think the way that Pixley currently takes the back and is unable to kind of consistently punch that second hook in is going to be able to lock Rodriguez's hips down to get there. On you have a point or no?
I have a point. I don't know, it may sway you or not, but I think doing a tournament, I think it would be closer because I think you never know how a bracket goes. You're going 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, what have you. But I think with a super match like this, everything's going to be concentrated in one match. I think.
You think he's wanting to put more gas into it and like really like punch down for hooks in a way that maybe we haven't seen him in like an ADCC tournament or like a trials tournament or something.
I think
else
you're going
like
to see both of them really kind of throw everything into this. But the way we see Nicky Rock compete lately, he's more calm. So I don't know how much energy he's actually going to really expend. I think Pixie's going to really go for it.
Yeah.
So and once again that may come down to be a result of the, Pixie. What is he? A purple belt?
Yeah, but
purple, brown.
Oh yeah.
Purple.
In news here, J-Rod gets his brown belt.
Right.
In other, like, it's so funny. We used to cover a lot of, what we would do is we'd cover world level competitors getting a black belt if they weren't before. And then we realized that, like, it kind of just doesn't, there's so many guys. We still cover the black belts, but it's so funny. Like, J-Rod's a brown belt. Who's purple? Yeah, you almost beat Giancarlo as, like, a blue belt in one of the earlier matches.
Sure.
And then after Giancarlo almost beat you, and then you almost beat him, and then in the ADCC you run it back, and like he was a purple belt, and in the biggest air quotes, like Nick Rodriguez almost wins ADCC as a blue belt. Like I was there when he got promoted to purple belt at 2019.
Yeah, what I was saying with Pixley being so much younger in his jiu-jitsu career than Nicky Rod, his game was probably developing a lot faster and changing. So we're not quite sure what he's putting together, what he's going to put together between ADCC and Fight Pass Invitational.
Yeah, it's a couple. I mean, it's a month.
So that's what I mean by
later.
"quote unquote" purple belt, brown belt, whatever he is. He's just younger in the game.
Actually, weirdly enough, Big Dan Manasori from New Wave, one of Gordon's training partners under John Donaher, gave a really interesting interview at some point this year or last year, and he was talking about oh yeah, guys, he was only a purple belt, only a brown belt, and he was
scary.
like,
that's so scary.
that was, and he was talking about it more of like a discussion of like how good his potential was. He's like, yeah, I'm beating black belts, but he goes, as far as like my jiu-jitsu progression is, I am a purple belt. Like on my development train, it's like when I get to black belt, like it'll be a reflection of how good I am versus how good I can be versus like, and it was a really interesting, like I really, really liked the way that he sort of broke that down. And for the world level competitors, again, like Rodriguez, like Pixley, like J-Rod, like all the guys that are not black belts and like quotes here that are still winning and performing at this insane level from the world class like stage, it is a reflection of like how good they can be in relation to themselves and how much they can continue to progress. So Pixley, again, being a purple belt, being a brown belt, like he is still, that I think is Heath Pedigo going, yeah, you still have this much more to go.
Yes, very much so.
And so a purple belt, we all know guys get wildly better at purple belt. Him adding a new thing here and there, like, wouldn't surprise me.
Except for if you're 50, you don't get.
There's that. I broke my back, Corey. And even I got better at brown belt. So let's go back. I want to go back to, now we've kind of talked about the pathways for Pixley for victory here. I want to talk about the pathways for Nick Rodriguez's victory because I think that's way more likely. But I did want to go like hey, how can Pixley take this?
Sure.
Even though I really don't think that he will be able to do that, and I want to run into some reasons why. What does Nick Rodriguez do well? We've talked about it. Like, he doesn't have to make a lot of mistakes, and his willingness to sort of like, hey man, I'm not going to fight you I'll fight you where you're really good, but I'm not going to give you the thing that you're really good at. I don't think he's going to Uchimata by Pixley. I think he'll get in, he'll play into it a little bit, but I don't think that he's going to be like caught off guard like other people have when Pixley starts like chucking and like throwing series. Like Rodriguez will be ready for the series that Pixley has. He'll know, they'll have looked at it and go, okay, he's going to do these things. I will be ready for them and like not be worried about them, but be conscious about my positioning to not end up in them. Rodriguez is willing to pull. And if he's not having success with Pixley on the feet, which I think he may even be able to have some success just like by being such a strong kind of powerhouse guy, I don't think we'll see him take a low shot. Like Trattor. I think he will not make the mistake that Trattor made, which is like make that kind of low like shot. It's also not something we see a lot from Rodriguez. We see him like that wrestle up a lot more.
Correct.
He'll pull, he'll go to the wrestle up. One thing that Rodriguez does that I think will avoid getting him Darced from Pixley is when you see him do the low ankle pick or the wrestle up, he tends to drive his other hand up. He tends to just like push on your hip in a way where it doesn't let you sprawl him down as he's coming up and as he's driving. And it's a really interesting like little positional change that he's a house of a man to be able to do this, but guys tend to not ever get sprawled out on him. Pixley's a long guy. That is a lot of leg to sprawl down. Now, again, Pixley is one of the more credentialed wrestlers to ever come into jiu-jitsu, and in kind of this sense, I think that Rodriguez is going to be able to get him down. We have not seen Pixley work a lot from his back. I think if Rodriguez elects to pull, we are going to see that outrangy battle that we've seen Pixley do before. Pixley has not really shown that he is a really confident guard passer. Go back and watch his match with Lovato in the semifinals of ADCC.
With Bradley.
Or Adam Bradley at trials, at U.S. trials for ADCC. We have a couple, even the Trattor match, in his earlier match, like Trattor was kind of like shooting forward, and Pixley tends to back up a lot. I don't really think in the super fight here, UFC, like in the rules, will not, they have rules and scoring here. They will not let him back up to the extent that he is historically backed up versus a guard player. Okay, so for Fight Pass Invitational, let's talk about some scoring criteria. It is referees and judges' decision, and then if they go to overtime, if there's nothing that ends the match in sub, we go to standard points. Passing the guards 2 points, sweeps and reversals is 2 points, knee on belly is 2 points, takedowns 2 points, mount is 4 points. Similar to ACC, similar to IBJJF. I don't think that Pixley can pass Rodriguez's guard. We've seen him do a knee push. We've seen him kind of jump around, but he couldn't do it to Lovato. He couldn't get under Lovato to pass him. Like Lovato, I think is one of the best American grapplers ever. He's a little bit on the older side now. Rodriguez, we've never seen Rodriguez get passed by any of the passes that Pixley throws that we've seen in like the 3 matches we kind of keep keying into: the Mergali match, the Trattor match, the Adam Bradley match in trials. I don't think he can pass.
Agreed.
So if he can't pass, then can Rodriguez force him to wrestle up? Well, can you wrestle Pixley down? I don't know. But I would think if anyone would be able to do it, it would be a guy like Rodriguez. Rodriguez would be able to get underneath him. The other thing we have is, I don't know how good of a leg locker Pixley is. Rodriguez...
Not enough data points.
Not enough data, kind of to your point earlier. Rodriguez is a guy that is more and more willing nowadays to go into the legs now and again. We see him hit toe holds. We see him hit heel hooks. We see him like occasionally will go, hey man, I'm going to start to go into the feet when things aren't going his way. Now, I'm concerned with Pixley's like rangy outfight. If Rodriguez does choose to pull here, he usually doesn't sit and play guard and butt scoot towards you a lot. Can Pixley get around him to scramble? Probably not. Can Pixley Darce him to scramble? Probably not. It's more of a possibility. If Pixley makes this a really, really boring match, he can take it from Rodriguez. But I think if Rodriguez is able to get any sequences going, especially if he can get Pixley on his back, I think he can prevent Pixley from getting up, and I think he can drown him. Like
Agreed.
we saw him kind of do versus like Mason Fowler, like eventually body locking him. Fowler's willing to play guard. And Fowler's a phenomenal guard player. I don't know really how good of a guard player Pixley is. It's not where he decides to play.
Correct.
So my guess would be back to your data points piece. Probably not, world-class developed guard right now.
Right now.
He's developing, but
Correct.
like it's not where he plays. It's not where he makes his work.
Right.
If Rodriguez can get him out, I think it's over.
Yeah.
I think Rodriguez gets the back. I think Rodriguez subs, kind of like he did to Adam Bradley.
Yeah.
Like my biggest data point in this match is you look at Michael Pixley versus Adam Bradley that happened in ADCC trials, and you look at Nick Rodriguez and Adam Bradley that happened at Craig Jones Invitational. Night and day difference to the matches. Mm-hmm. Again, Bradley has a much more favorable stylistic matchup for both guys, like a way Pixley to beat him and a way for Nick Rodriguez to beat him, because Rodriguez is a masterful guard passer. But I just think if you have to avoid that one area, Rodriguez will put you on the back and force you into that area in a way that will be very, very hard to get out.
Here's what I think. I think whoever can get the other person down is going to have the advantage. I think.
I kind of think. Sorry, you keep going here. I have an immediate counterpoint that I'm excited about.
Here's the thing. I think if the hand fighting or the stand up goes too long, I think Nicky Rod's going to sit. He's going to pull. He's going to go for his low single.
Yep.
And then once he gets Pixie on his back, he's going for the body lock pass. He's going to go in, and I think just a matter of time before he passes.
And eventually turns the shoulder.
Right, and then he's on to the races. But I think if they're on the feet, and I think if Pixie can kind of get maybe his classic Uchimata, or maybe he's working on his foot sweeps. We know that Nicky Rod's susceptible to foot sweep.
He occasionally will like
Owen Livesey,
Owen Livesey did it to him
a couple times.
And we've seen a couple of guys like, again, Owen Livesey is like 2013 Commonwealth gold medalist in judo, like, but still, Pixley does have good foot. I haven't mentioned it yet. He does have good foot sweeps, and you have seen that in some of his matches.
So I think if he can get Nicky Rod down with something in his bag, he has a good chance of at least punching up and finishing it, or making it very interesting.
Miranda's texting me during the show and like, hey, there's a event coming. I'm like, we're doing the show right now. I do not have time to pull that out for preview. But
so I guess the key is the first to get the other person down. And if Nicky Rod gets him down first, I think it's going to be on to the races. And I think if Pixie gets him down, I think his chances increase. Not to say he will be able to finish Nicky Rod, but it's going to become very interesting now.
I kind of think the opposite. I think if Pixley's able to get Rodriguez down, then he has to engage Rodriguez as the seated player. And then Rodriguez now has more opportunities to get up and go in. And like he now will, because Pixley has to sort of engage into him.
Maybe. Depends on how Pixley gets him down.
Yeah.
If he throws him, totally different thing.
If Pixley throws him, I think Rodriguez will be able to counter that. But the thing is, if Pixley can throw and Rodriguez isn't able to get any offense out of our counter offense, then the throw wins it.
Yeah.
So that's my only kind of concern for Rodriguez. I think Rodriguez, if he is able to put Pixley down on his back, which I think he has the skills and tools to do, he potentially can out wrestle Michael Pixley here as well. He has a lot of size. He knows how to use like the techniques and skills that he does have in wrestling. Like he can get to the single leg, he can get outside, he can pick you through, he can blast you down.
Right.
He can do a lot of that. If he does get Pixley down, then it's over. If Pixley can avoid getting taken down and hit a counter throw, hit some level of counter activity off of it, there's that. If it goes to overtime, this is kind of a completely different ballgame. I think that Rodriguez has the gas to really be able to push an overtime match.
Now, is this overtime similar to EBIs where you positions or?
No. Just it goes back to points.
Go back to points, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So if Pixley doesn't have penalties going in, if Pixley has penalties going to overtime, I think Rodriguez keeps enough activity to win on penalties. If Pixley does not have penalties, or if Rodriguez has penalties, I think that this becomes a lot tighter because Rodriguez is going to be forced to be able to get down Pixley. I think Rodriguez can win for two ways in overtime: being more active, doing more, because Pixley is notoriously like slow and rangy, and Rodriguez will put up a pace on guys. I think that wins him the match. I think the counters for the Uchimata that Pixley throw and like some of the other like foot sweep wrestling like you were talking about are available, but I do not think Pixley can settle Rodriguez for a throw. I think he will be unable to settle Rodriguez, or Rodriguez will be able to almost be settled and be able to reverse him.
We
saw versus Adam Bradley.
The great thing about this?
What?
We will see.
We will see. So
We will see.
I lean heavy to Rodriguez, but I
Same
do
here.
think that there are really, really good avenues for Pixley to be able to take this. There are
Absolutely.
just a lot of X factors, like you said, data points. Like, what data points do we have on Pixley versus guys like Rodriguez? Like, not a lot.
I mean, you best believe Pixie's gonna have a game plan.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he has a killer room just as well as a B team does. You know,
And the Petty guys always come with a good game plan.
Yeah,
like,
they have great game
Those
plans.
guys frequently always, you're like, oh yeah, this was the game. Like every time I talk to Couch, he has a game plan. They have a thought process. They have like where they were going, what they were looking for. Like, oh, but nowadays all of the top competitors do. But Pixley's in that room with Heath. I think Heath will probably be there in his corner. Like, they will not just go into this match like it's every other match.
Right.
They're going to go in knowing how specifically they need to beat Nicky Rod. That being said, do we know if Dima is still in the B team room, or if he's gone
I
now?
thought they were going to bring him back, but I'm not
I
quite
don't know if
sure
he's back
they did.
yet. Game planning wise, I'm really curious who is. Rodriguez has sort of always been a self starter, but I'm curious if they're going to have a team and a coach team.
That could make the difference. Good point.
Because I think, like, I would love to see B team have a coach.
Yes.
Very, very few pro rooms ever, and that's one of the things we've talked about for years and years. One of the reasons it makes Gordon so good is that he is not his own coach. Danaher is his coach, and he does what his coach says, and like he is not focusing on running other programs, doing other things. He is only focusing on improving as an athlete. I think we saw some flashes of that in the B team room, where it was like suddenly guys weren't having to put together their own training.
Correct.
They had Dima in the room coaching, running practices, running training, facilitating how they were moving. And I think that whole room, like you saw just little differences here and there from a lot of different guys. Suddenly it's like, ooh, the level went up. And I've watched more and more of the training footage coming out of the B team room because they post a lot of it. And it's cool to see Dima, like during a round, sometimes be giving coaching, or like I liked his influence that he had in that room. I'm curious if B team has a coach right now that will have that influence in the room.
Great point.
So
Great point.
So do you have any other pieces that we didn't go through with the styles of the matchup? I think Rodriguez takes it. I think Rodriguez takes it on activity, or he gets Pixley down and subs him with a rear naked choke. I think Pixley's pathway to victory, I don't think it's going to happen, is rangy on the feet, and kind of stalling Rodriguez out in one big throw that takes it on a really close, boring match.
I agree with you.
So what pathway do you think we go through? Who takes it?
I think we're going to see them standing on their feet for a minute, and I think once it gets to that point where if Nicky Rod doesn't immediately take him down, I think he sits to guard. I think he gets a low single. I think he takes him down and he goes for the body lock pass, and I think from that point in time on, it's going to be that's his path to victory.
Yeah.
I think he's just going to.
You think he subs him?
Yes.
With what?
Oh my.
Rear naked choke is the easy answer.
That's the easy answer, but it all depends. I mean, once he gets him on his back, the body like pass, if he passes guard, goes side control mount, it's gonna be a matter of time. He might just cook him. From that point. It comes down to how late in the match that happens.
Right.
Sooner, who knows? He could Darce him. I mean, Nicky Rod's been shown to be able to do multiple things. You know, a lot of things.
Just
so,
as a flex, like I can do your thing too.
Which I can do your thing and probably do a little better. You know,
some guy, dude, that is the funniest thing. We saw it a couple weeks ago with Tarek Hopstock and Tynan Daupra, where Daupra hits the like I can do your thing too. I was like, nah, that was a flex. That was like a weird flex. Daupra did it kind of in a weird way.
Yeah.
But it was still like, yeah, I can do your thing too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it will be fun. I'm really amped for it. The more we kind of previewed it, you sent me a preview, not a preview. You sent me like when the match first got announced. I got like
so
two paragraphs from Cory. It was like, I was like, hey, man, you see this? Like, yeah, here's how it goes. And I was like, okay, cool. And so that was in my head. I was like, let's bring it on. Let's have you preview this one.
But the great thing about this is we don't, at least in my mind, I don't think we know enough about Pixley, and his game is developing so fast because he's so young in the jiu-jitsu side of things.
Yeah.
That he could be adding things to his, and you best believe they're getting a game plan. So that's the X factor. How will he approach this match?
Right.
And no one really knows that except for him and his camp.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm excited to see.
So it will be fun. So,
but I think Nicky Rod takes it.
I think he takes it my sub. Moving on, let's talk about Renato Canuto. I think we go to Renato Canuto versus PJ Barch as the next one we preview. This is a rematch of a rematch. We have Renato Canuto beating PJ Barch like 2018 in Kasai by like a point.
Yeah.
Again, matches more than 4 years old, matches more than 3 years old nowadays, honestly, unless they're in the gi. Gi dynamics tend to not change as much. No gi dynamics tend to change much more rapidly. And so a guy's match from 3 or 4 years ago, you're like, how much stock do I put into it? But I do think it's worth considering in this matchup that, like, okay, 2018, they had a match, very close match, fun match. Hanato takes this on 1 point. They have a rematch like 6 months ago, like 5 months ago at PGF.
And PJ Bart takes it.
And PJ Bart takes
inside heel hook.
He takes it by sub, which I think is a really interesting kind of thing. If you go back and watch this match, what was very interesting about this particular match is that Canuto was the one initially that was initiating the heel hook attempts. And I think had more better bites on Barch, but Barch, much like he did to Elijah Dorsey in ADCC, hits a counter heel hook. And eventually kind of gets running and is able to capitalize off of Canuto going into the legs. I think Barch is probably the best counter leg locker in the sport right now.
I agree with that.
Like, maybe Cade, but I still think that Barch, like, with the routineness that Barch does it, where it's like, oh, you're going into Barch's legs, cool. And Barch is just so nonplussed about it. Like, the obstinate look that he gives the camera when Elijah Dorsey is going for his leg in ADCC, he looks like why they beat me back? Why they make me kill again? Like, that's the look he gave. He just heel hooks him. And it's just wild because I kind of think this is how this match goes again. I think Hanato jumps into something. Like you were talking when you were looking at the matchup, you're like, Canuto has these opportunities to throw flying shit. And he
just does, just without a care.
Yeah.
And if he catches you, it could be lights out. But if he doesn't, you may end up in PJ's game. You may end up in the leg game, the leg exchange. You know, so
and good luck.
And good luck
for that. So the matches that we've seen, like we've watched much more of Barch recently. The matches that come to mind are like the match with Andrew Tackett, which I don't think matters at all because we just spent the entirety of last week's show talking about Andrew Tackett versus Cade Bertolo, and it's like, yeah, man, not the same guy. We didn't talk about just the pace that Andrew Tackett put on Nicky Ryan.
Yes.
Like, Andrew Tackett's a different dude. Like, it doesn't, out of this conversation, doesn't count.
He's by himself. It's over there.
Yeah, it doesn't count in this match. Also got injured in the match versus PJ Barch and had to pull out. So then we see PJ Barch versus Mika Galvao. He gets knocked out and then he gets armbarred.
Also Mika, different kind of guy.
Also Mika, different kind of guy.
Yeah.
Hanato Canuto, very, very good. I love Canuto's game. We watched Canuto for years and years and years. The flying pieces of his game. I think your point earlier was like, he can catch him. But I think we talk about the matches that Barch looks phenomenal in. It's every other match.
Yes.
It's like, look, we knew he was good ADCC 2019. We got injured after trials. He couldn't do it. He comes in, looks amazing. 2022, he beats fucking JT Torres.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, he did, yep.
Then
knocked him out of ADCC.
Yeah. This last year, as I completely forget that, dude, the weekend gets so crazy. He beats Fabio Colloy. He beats Mateus Szynski. He beats then he loses to Mika Galvao at ADCC this year, and then he beats Elijah Dorsey in the third place match. What? Oh yeah, okay. He beats Elijah Dorsey. They were the same color. He beats Elijah Dorsey ADCC in the third place match this year. Like, been on a tear. Winato has not been. Not as active is the right word, but
we haven't seen as much of him.
And every time that we see PJ Barch, it's like another wrinkle, another fold, another just like...
It's another banger. It's another high-profile match.
It's not a high-profile match versus a really good grappler.
Yes.
And Barch, I wouldn't say makes it look easy, but other than the Tackett and the Mika match, like, looks control. And the match at ADCC between him and Mika was close.
Yes, it was.
Was super close and like controversial close.
Yeah.
Where there's a big camp that thinks that PJ took that, and like live it was like I could see it for Mika, I can see it for PJ. Like that was one of those match. We all kind of went like the whole row of grappling around kind of went. I go either way.
But he consistently shows that he's game no matter who the opponent is. He's there for it.
Yeah, and again, unless it's Mika or like a guy like probably like Cade or Andrew, like beats pretty damn near everyone.
Yeah.
Like consistently. I think that this match is kind of going to look like a rematch. Like, of course, like a rematch, a replay
of the most recent match.
Of the most recent match. Yeah, I just think that like Barcia is going to be able to control it in spaces. I think that this rule set, even more than PGF, lends itself to Barch, but more than it lends itself to Canuto. I think Canuto's been on the stage more than Barch has.
Sure.
But I just think that Canuto's, like, the wrestling is not quite as good as Barch's. It's fun. It's high flying. Canuto is way more willing to jump into stuff. Now, we did see Canuto. We did see Barch get flying armbar by Mika, but again, we already threw Mika out.
It's like different.
Mika, it's different. Like, it's a different one of those like 4 different kind of guys. Hanato can do that and has done that. I think he did it to Jake Shields back in like one of the old third coast grapplings. Like, he's done it to some high profile people. Barch is going to know that. He's faced Canuto. He knows what Canuto brings to the table. He's got a game plan for Canuto. I don't think that we are going to see Hanato be able to jumping flying armbar him.
I don't think so either, but it's Hanato Canuto. You know, anything can happen.
Yeah.
He's a wizard. He pulls it out of his bag, and all of a sudden you're like, holy shit.
He did it, yeah.
He did it again.
Yeah. I think that we see a wrestle-heavy performance from Barch. He puts Canuto down, and then I think he's able to control Canuto. I think Canuto will be able to get into the legs and force it into the legs. I think he'll get a good bite in it, but I do think that Barch will be able to get out, and I do think that Barch will be able to kind of turn the tide. That being said, if it goes to decision, like, and there's no score, those attacks from Canuto are going to weigh heavy in the judge's mind. If it goes to points, I think that this is kind of either anybody's game. I do think Barch is a much stronger wrestler.
Yes.
Like, Barch has ability to just be able to put Canuto down. Canuto's crafty and has ability to make space, and kind of he will run around a little bit and kind of like run out of the exchanges if he needs to. But I think that Barch, just with the dynamic nature of his wrestling, again, look what he did. It's an old match. We talked about old matches don't matter. Look at how he deals with the wrestling of JT Torres.
Yeah.
Like, look at how he dealt with the wrestling of Andrew Tackett. Like that. Sorry. Like, that was
impressive.
That was an impressive match from Andrew Tackett, but Barch was still in that match.
Yeah, he was game.
He was game, and it was like, and you saw Andrew Tackett doing some crazy stuff, and Barch was still in there in the middle of it. I think that Hanato Canuto has a lot of like transfer to Andrew Tackett as far as like similarities in game.
Yeah.
But I think that Andrew Tackett is much more willing to fight and run long combinations of those in a way where Canuto will throw it as like a jab. Like, he'll throw one of them, he'll throw a couple of them. Tackett tends to link them together in sequences in a way that allowed him to kind of get front runnering on Barch and beat him in a way that, and we saw Barch do well against that. I don't think Barch will have the same problems he had with Andrew Tackett with Canuto, because Canuto tends not to link those chain attacks together in the same way. Like, he'll go from an armbar to a leg lock, but Andrew Tackett will go from an armbar to a guard pull to a leg lock to a back take attempt to back to a leg to a wrestle up to a spin through. It's like Canuto is usually not going to go to all three, or he'll pull into guard. He'll play into guard.
Yeah.
Like, you can put him into a place, like, and Barch will defend well enough to force Canuto into a neutral position that Barch can then begin to work off of. Canuto, I think, will get favor in the eyes of the judges for those sequences, but I think when push comes to shove, Barch has, I'm not going to say like a more fundamentally sound game, but a game that is, we have seen him be able to action more frequently in a more focused way than Canuto. Like, Canuto can highlight real sub a lot of guys and can win close matches. Barch consistently can beat like some of the best guys in the world with the way that he uses his wrestling, the way he implements his passing, and the way that he's able to hit counter heel hooks off of guys that try to heel hook him.
I think all that you just said was basically Barch is good at everything, fundamentally sound, and he's really good to legs. He's a really good wrestler. Jiu-jitsu wrestling, and
honestly, like actual wrestling. He was a good wrestler out of Delaware. Like,
he's hard to put away, and he's dealt with some competitors that continually chain attack after attack after attack. There is no reset, you know. Yeah. So, you know, anything can happen, but I think PJ runs away with this one, and I think that he knows Canuto's game a little better than he would know someone like Tackett's game. You know what I mean? But I think he's faced Canuto twice before.
The physical gas pedal, too, is just going to be different, where it's like Cade Rotolo was not barely able to, but like both those guys are known for just having a buzzsaw, like chainsaw of a gas tank, and being able to just run it the entire time, where like almost nobody else can do that.
That's a rare thing.
And Barch still kind of stayed with Tackett for a lot of those like sequences in a way that like nobody else can.
Yeah.
Canuto's just not going to have that same fervorous pace that Tackett's going to have. So I go Barch. I think Barch takes it. I kind of think he does so. Now, again, I did not really mention earlier, PGF was weird because that was like a whole week-long tournament. I think these guys met late in the week too. So they had like tens of matches already. Or like they had a bunch of matches already. So that's kind of fatigue. Like, is somebody injured? Are they fatigued? Like, it's a weird X factor, but I do think, yeah, like my earlier point of Barch being able to just put his game together in a way to consistently be the top talent in the world. Hanato can like flash sub you and has other great pieces of his game as well. Like, I don't want to take anything away from Canuto, but Barch has been much more consistent in the last 3 years than Canuto has been. If Canuto's not flash subbing you, he's taking a close victory. Barch is consistently taking like grounded victories over JT Torres and like Elijah Dorsey and like really, really good top level guys. So I think this is Barch. I think this is Barch.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
We know Canuto does gi and no gi. So you think, as far as his no gi, you think he's put enough? Like, I think Barch for the most part is no gi.
Yeah, we see Barch in the gi like once or twice a year as kind of a joke. He'll put the gi on a K like really, really rarely. The same thing Craig Jones does too. Like once or twice a year, he'll put it again. It's like, he's in the gi. Like,
and I can't remember the last time I've seen Canuto compete in the gi, but I know I've seen quite a few matches from him a couple years back within the gi.
He was more.
So I wonder how much time they're both putting into this no gi thing.
I think most guys on the pro scene now are mostly no gi.
Okay.
Like either you are in the gi side of things, or you are. There's a bunch of mixed guys. There are a bunch of mixed guys. I think generally guys that are ending up on stuff like the Fight Pass Invitational are primary. The men, the women, I think a lot of times they'll split between the two a lot more. As I talk about, like Azaki Bahenson and Rolando Jr. are both heavy gi and no gi guys currently. I will say it. A lot of the guys main eventing and co-main eventing are primarily no gi guys.
I can see that, but that just makes me wonder. I wonder now they have this thing coming up next week. I'm sure that recently they've both been putting a lot of time in no gi.
Yeah.
So
a lot of guys will do amateur tournaments like IBGGF stuff like that, and like other like non-professional tournaments in the gi. To like get ready for Worlds, and they'll do like the amateur circuits in the gi. But almost all the pro stuff is now no gi, unless you're in a couple of events like BJJ Stars, BJJ Bet. Those events will still run gi tournaments. IBJJF Crown, which is one of their pro events, will do still stuff in the gi. But yeah, I think both guys are mostly in.
We'll see.
I don't remember what your question to me was.
My question was, I wonder how much time that, especially Canuto's putting into no gi, because I know he does a little bit of.
Yeah, he does do. I think his school does both. He's an instructor at his gym at him and his wife's school, and does both. So
that may or may not factor into it, but who knows?
I think it's starting to factor in more and more. We've talked about it for years. The sports, we haven't had this discussion in a couple probably 6 or 8 months.
Right.
The two sports, the two things are very much sort of becoming their own sports.
Definitely diverging.
Yeah, and a more significant. And every year it kind of becomes more and more significant. The best guys in the gi can still come over into no gi, but the best guys in no gi typically have no interest in going to the gi because there's typically not a lot of money in it.
Right.
And
it's different.
And it's
on a higher level.
It's a whole different sport. At the higher levels, it's like, you get the Muniz brothers that are primarily gi players. You're like, yeah, good luck ever dealing with that. Margali, good luck ever dealing with his lapel game. Like, I think it is easier to go from gi to no gi than it is to go from no gi to gi. But I also don't think there's any incentive for money to do it either.
Not yet. But hopefully in the future.
Hopefully one day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. There's less transferable skills one way to the other. It's very much one-way traffic.
Agreed.
But they're two different sports. And I think we will, in our lifetime, very much see them become two different sports. Of like, yeah, guys do, maybe a couple guys do both of them, but generally speaking, you either do the gi or you do no gi. I just think like it's guys who do kickboxing and MMA. It's like they're similar sports, but like you usually will do one or then you'll make the transition. Like Alex Pereira just fought this last weekend. This started yesterday. Made the transition from kickboxing into MMA.
Right.
Probably not going back to kickboxing.
Right.
Probably you're going over because there's way more money in MMA.
I think money will dictate it.
Transferable skills. And then again, you have Rise and you have K1. You have other organizations that are great, usually out of Japan. But like generally speaking, you're going to MMA because you can transfer. MMA guys will do kickboxing, but like usually would kind of prefer to do MMA because there's money in it. I don't know if I have a point there, if that came across on the show or not, but it was interesting to me.
Understood.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to, it's in order here from, UFC actually has a really great, I wish more organizations would kind of take a page of this. Give me a splash page with your event and your matchups and your rules. It's just like UFC is running a professional event. It's nice to see actually having a list up of matchups and a little bit of, banter or write up for it. Yes. If you're running an event, put the extra hour it takes to put a splash screen website up with some information.
It helps.
The bare minimum.
Yeah.
Azaki Behance versus Rolando Jr. These guys have not met before. Very similar age. Rolando looked really good versus Cody Steele in his last matchup on the Fight Pass Invitational. Cody Steele, again, has really been making the transition over to MMA. He was going to have a fight on Dana White's Contender Series. His opponent dropped out. Azaki Behance has been looking good at ADCC. They both looked really good. I will give this to Rolando mostly on pacing and because he's familiar with the Fight Pass Invitational system. Azaki is very, very good. And they've both been a little spotty. Azaki's been competing a little more than Rolando recently. But it's almost a toss-up. But I will say that I always call him
Rolando. It's Ronaldo.
Ronaldo.
What'd
I say?
Rolando. But we understood what you're talking about. It's cool. It's been a long week.
Years of this exact. Why didn't you correct me earlier? You just looked at me and watched me make.
Hey man, you're the black belt. I mean, you're pushing the pace here, man.
I'm gonna go Junior here, kind of honestly as a gut pick more so. Do you have any thoughts? We kind of looked at this earlier. It is kind of a shot in the dark matchup for me of just if Azaki gets his neck, Azaki can take your neck home with an arm and guillotine or a guillotine. If Rolando looks like he did versus Cody Steele, which I don't think he kind of will, very much dominated that match.
I think it's going to come down to pace. Ronaldo, I think, he's one of the grapplers that relies more on his pace and speed and transition than Azaki does. For me, and also it comes down to who both these gentlemen do gi and no-gi. So it comes down to who's been putting in more time with the no-gi, I think. So 55-45 Ronaldo.
Yeah.
But it could go either way. I mean, Izaki's a beast. I mean, they're both beasts. So I wouldn't be surprised if Izaki pulled this off. But I think Ronaldo, if he can come out and put a pace on Izaki, I think it's going to be a long day for Izaki. And I think Ronaldo takes it. But I don't see a sub coming. I think I maybe see maybe decision.
A decision or points.
Or maybe
somebody
points,
gets a point.
I don't see a submission.
Yeah, I see this being very much a decision match.
Yeah.
Next one. Let's talk about this one. This will be fun. Andy Varela versus Dante Leone. I think we're both. We talked about the pre-show. I think we're both picking Dante.
Yeah.
Because kind of mainly for the PJ Barch problem of just Dante is really, really good everywhere.
Against all sizes, all heights.
He has had some big losses recently. He loses the first round, second round at ADCC in his weight class. He loses to Elijah Dorsey in his first round at the weight class at ADCC. Then goes on to have a crazy absolute run where he submits Giancarlo Bodoni.
Yes.
In the third place matchup, where everyone was like, the champion got submitted by a guy that got knocked out in the first round.
He submits Mika.
He submits
straight ankle.
Mika with a straight ankle lock in the absolute semifinals. Quarterfinals. And everyone was like, that's crazy. And then he loses to Kynan, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, he loses.
Yeah, he loses to Kynan.
Yeah.
Sorry, the ADCC brackets are awesome, but they are laid out in a way that is a little immediate. It's a little different than what I'm immediately used to seeing. And then you have Andy Varela. Andy Varela was he at CJI? Or was it ADCC?
I believe he was at CJI.
CJI. He
lost to Joseph Chen.
Yeah, to Joseph Chen. And this was he lost to Joseph Chen back-to-back. He lost him at main character, invitational by referee's decision, and Joseph Chen by referee's decision. And at CJI via referee's decision.
Right.
I do not think that Dante Leon has as close of a match with Joseph Chen as Andy Varela did. Both matches were sort of slower paced with Chen, taking them. So this isn't to say that I think that like Dante beats Chen. I would want to look into that matchup a lot more. I think that'd be a really, really exciting match to make. But I think with Varela typically does best. He can like bully his opponent around, and he can force them into bad exchanges, and he can take their back and choke them. If you look at Varela's like BJ Heroes page, it's mostly rear naked choke, rear naked choke, rear naked choke, rear naked choke, rear naked choke. He loses to Andrew Tackett on points in the semifinals of West Coast Trials. Rear naked choke, points. Like a lot of rear naked chokes and stuff on Varela's record. But a lot of the folks on his record are people in the earlier rounds of tournaments, or, he has a draw to Canuto here in the PGF. He has a draw to Barch in the PGF. He has a draw to Benetti. He has a draw to Nathan Haddad, draw to Elijah Carlton, draw to Max Hansen. And he beats Max Hansen. He has a win over Cam Hurd. Dante Leon's BJ Heroes record looks crazy. Like a loss to Diego Oliveira. Diego Oliveira, who's number one, outside heel hook. That was when he was the champion at 155. Pato is one of the best in the world. Only loses to Baby Shark. Pretty much.
Pretty good.
Is the only one. And beat Baby Shark that one time for his belt. Loses to Kainan Duarte in the absolute. Then he has an armbar win, a shoulder lock win, beats Diego Santana, beats CJ Murdoch, beats Jet Thompson. Let's see. He did lose to Elijah Dorsey by points.
He beat Giancarlo Bodoni.
He beat Bodoni
for third place
by referee's decision. I thought it was sub. Oh, it was referee's decision. It wasn't sub. My bad. On the earlier one, I said that. It was Mika he beat via sub.
Submission, right.
Like those, just by a numbers approach at all. I think Dante Leon's game plan works better in aggregate overall. Like there are not really places other than the wrestling, but I think Dante's a very comparable wrestler to Varela. I think he's going to pull. I think that Varela is forced to pass. I think Dante's into the legs. I think this is a match of Dante being into the legs most of the time, and Varela trying to kind of bully Dante and being unable to bully Dante, because Dante will go up into absolute and be fine. Dante has wins over ADCC champ Miki Gavao.
Not bad.
This last year.
Right.
And ADCC champ Giancarlo Bodoni this last year. Varela does not have those wins. That is a by the numbers pick overall. It's just I think that Dante can do it again.
And I think Dante also has that game that translates into him competing against really, really, really big guys. Like he competed a couple years back with Cyborg, right? In like a little local tournament.
At Grappling Industries at the Arnold Classic.
It was crazy.
Yeah, and that was a close match. Some people gave that to Dante.
Yeah, I did. I gave it to him. But he competes against everyone, different weight classes, different sizes, everyone. And I think he once again, he's like PJ Barch. He's game. He's always in that match. Mm-hmm. No matter if he loses it, he's always in there. And he's from what I'm hearing, he's insanely strong.
Oh, you look at his weightlifting.
And I've seen his workouts. It's crazy.
Dude. So that is my big thing, is I think that generally speaking, Dante Leon has more avenues to win the match. Varela will need to get Dante's back and will need to rear naked choke him, I think, or be able to pressure him down like an arm triangle, but we just don't see anyone able to do that versus Dante. Look, Dante's losses like to Diego Oliveira. One of the best leg lockers at that weight.
Sure.
And who's number one for the title. He gets underneath him. He inverts kind of over, and he gets the heel hook finish like on Leon.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Pato. He loses to Duarte at the IBGF by 2 points in absolute.
Not bad.
Then in ADCC, he loses by 2 points for Elijah Dorsey, and then in Duarte again, 2 points. Like, he's not a guy, even in absolute, that's getting finished.
He doesn't lose very much. And also, he's kind of one of those guys that is willing to let his stuff break. He will tap at the very last minute if need be, but he will fight through a submission.
I'm trying to see on his record, at least, other, like Mickey Gavao, 2022, points. Like, Nicky Ryan, go to ADCC, points loss. Like, these are his losses, And
those are 3 years ago.
Yeah, we're going back. Like PJ Barch, referee's decision. Mickey Gavao, referee's decision. Who's number one? Like Lucas Lira.
He beat Devontae Johnson.
Yeah.
Nogi Pants 2023. So he's seen a little bit of everyone.
All of his losses, really, except for Pato, are very, very close 2-point decision losses.
Yeah.
I just don't think Varela has like the craft is the right word to do it, but like Varela will run his game plan at you, and if he can overwhelm you, he will overwhelm you.
Yeah.
I do not think he overwhelms Dante Leon. I think Dante Leon, given how much he competes in absolute, even if Varela's a little bigger than him, is not going to have a problem dealing with what Varela is bringing and putting in front of him, and is going to be able to get into his legs and be able to either get his legs or get his back, and if not take a commanding decision win, take a sub win.
I agree with that.
Varela's really hard to sub.
Yes, he is. I think Varela's naturally a little bigger than Dante Leon, right?
Yeah, we remember seeing Varela at West Coast Trials 2022, and he was in the finals, and we were like, holy shit. He is the biggest 77er in this room.
Right.
Like, just enormous versus like Bartz that was in the finals, I think, and it was like, it was huge. It just doesn't, it's not going to matter.
I agree with you. I think
Dante.
once you factor in once you factor in his ability, Dante Leon's ability to his leg game to get into Varela's legs, I think it's going to be a totally different complexion in this match. Not to mention, I think Dante Leon welcomes the physicality. He's that kind of guy that's like, all right, bring it. And we've seen him time and time again, just, okay, you're bigger than me by 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds. You're going to have to almost kill me to make me to knock me out this match.
Honestly,
he has that kind of mentality about him.
Looking at Varela's record here, I do kind of think that it goes decision or points for Dante. I don't see a single like submission loss other than like 2022, like versus Jansen Gomez, Roberto Cyborg in ADCC 2022, like even Nick Rodriguez at ADCC in the absolute for 2022 points him out 17-0, doesn't submit him. You know, Luke Griffith, EBI overtime win over him. Mason Fowler, EBI overtime win back when he was like when Fowler and Varela were like the kings of submission underground, like Sugg back in the 2021, 2020, even like 2019 and 18 when he was just killing it over on submission underground. I just think Dante has more tools to be able to take a more dynamic victory via points and via like activity, and Varela will be unable to just run him over and rear naked choke him like he does for most of his submissions. So
I can't disagree.
Next match we have. Any other points on that?
No, that's it.
Next match we have Renel Canuto versus Gabby McComb. I don't want to talk about this for a huge amount of time. Gabby McComb is amazing. I think she's a little smaller than Raquel, but it's really hard to pull records, unfortunately, for a lot of the women, which is really annoying because it makes some of our comparisons really, really hard and I have to remember from our old notes. This, I think, could be close. I do think that Gabby McComb is going to play off her back and it's going to be a slow match. I don't know if Raquel can pass, but I think that McComb might be able to sweep and sweep late. I think if it goes late into overtime, potentially Raquel can win this on takedown.
Yeah, I can see that. I think, just going back to the weights, I think Raquel's about 10 pounds heavier.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think it's like a 155.
About a weight class above.
Yeah, I think Gabby's like a 140, 145 or so.
And again, the MMA weight class is a little different for when I have like weights on Raquel. But yeah, I think that when they compete, I think McComb is usually in the 120s and Raquel is usually in the 130s.
Yeah, I don't have much else to add to this.
It's a good matchup. It's a fun matchup.
I think it's gonna be fun. Really fun.
I think if it is regulation, McComb can take this. But I think in late, Canuto needs to push this late and look for takedowns late into the match. I think that is her best opportunity for victory over McComb. Another match I want to talk about. This is fun. Gabriel Souza versus Josh Cisneros. This is probably the last one that we preview. I'm just going to make a gut pick here. I want to go Cisneros on this.
Okay.
Cisneros looked really good at ADCC. And Gabriel Souza has had a bit of a tougher run as of recently. Cisneros, again, coming off an injury, but looked amazing in his prior matches. Owen Jones armbars Gabriel Souza in ADCC, and then I don't have Cisneros' up, do I? Why would I have Cisneros' record up? Nope. Okay. No pressure, Corey. You got to feel for content. Why find the record?
That's okay. No worries. But I think one thing to consider is, didn't Gabriel Souza sub Mikey
back, and then Mikey in the rematch gets him.
Yeah.
But so Mikey had COVID maybe, and like there was a whole series
thing with that. But it's like we can see that Gabriel Souza is on that level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think anything can happen. Josh Cisneros, with that, has somewhat of a wrestling background with his game.
Mm-hmm.
We know how good he is. I think as of late, he's probably had some more high-profile wins.
Yeah, I mean, I brought up Cisneros' record here. He beats Kennedy Maceo.
Not bad.
Right?
Not bad
Beats
at all.
Kayuna Gabriel, who everyone is super hot on because he's just murdering guys everywhere. He had some losses to IBGGF, which don't really care about. Had a close match that he lost versus Jackson Nagai, world champion. Diogo Hayes at ADCC, world champion. Pedro Alex, Bum, who just got popped for steroids. But again, we're into 23. He's been a little less.
That was absolute. He's a big guy. Bum.
Yeah, Bum's a big dude. Cisneros has been at the higher level a little more recently. Not really than Souza. These guys are this is such a weird kind of matchup to break down because they both have phenomenal wins. Cisneros just has more recent phenomenal wins.
Yeah.
In my head, he's a little younger, and I just think that if Cisneros comes in the form that he usually comes in, I think that he will be able to beat Gabriel Souza, who got beat by Mikey at 1FC recently, and the Owen Jones armbar in the first round. Mm-hmm. I think that Owen Jones versus Josh Cisneros is a lot closer of a match.
I agree with that.
And that is sort of what I'm basing on. It's recently we've seen Gabriel have a bit of a tougher time with some of these matches. And he seems like he only has a couple of matches this year, ADCC and ADXC. Those are the only two matches on his BJJ Heroes record. I think Mikey was also this year as well, but that's not listed on here for some reason because BJJ Heroes is missing more and more matches recently for some reason.
Maybe because the number of matches and competitions going up.
What it used to be. It's not just 3 organizations. It's now so many organizations.
Correct.
I just think that Josh Cisneros overall has a much more dangerous sub game. And he will be able to kind of plan for what Gabriel Souza is going to do and be able to counter sub him off of that. Kind of like Owen Jones did.
Okay.
And he will be able to keep a pace that Gabriel Souza is a little less comfortable keeping. Gabriel Souza can keep a crazy pace. He's very hard to put away, but I just think that Cisneros will come in and have one of those firework performances that he typically has on these big stages. Okay. So that's my thought. Again, I have a little less kind of technical and tactical match information on this one than usual, but it's more of just a gut pick for every time I've seen Cisneros recently. I've been impressed, win, lose, or draw. I'm just he has really great moments. Sure. And Gabriel Souza has had a little bit of an up and down recency in his matches.
Okay. I mean, I think most of these matches you kind of go with your gut. We each have something in our mind. We kind of come up with something.
A gut pick that I justify.
Exactly. We come up with facts to say, okay, this is why I think this is going to happen. But this is truly a toss-up match. I mean, it comes down to who's willing to, I guess, go into deeper, take the other person deeper waters. Who really wants it more. I think
it's such a weird thing at this high level. It's they both want it equally. It's just technique, but it's man, sometimes
someday anyone can lose anyone any given day. Yeah, you never know what's going on.
Which is why grappling is such a weird little sport where it's undefeated records are just so rare. They don't happen in grappling because eventually it's somebody just has your number one day, or you make one mistake one day, and you can just get outpointed. So. This will be fun. Other match on anything else on this one?
No, I think I would give the edge to Cisneros, just because that's my gut pick as well, and I think he's been kind of hitting on all 4 cylinders more lately.
Next match we have Kasia Mora versus Cindy Ung. That should be fun. I would love to have more time to preview that, but we're getting a little long. This is absolutely worth your time for this match. Next one we have Gabriel Almeida versus Johan. Ooh, that is a last name that I'm not going to be able to get.
Ustlusen.
It's catch weight at 215. Should be a lot of fun. I just actually commentated some matches from Gabriel Almeida here in Virginia a couple weeks ago, in the Copa Virginia cash prize division. They were fun. Gabriel Mayer looked very good. Did get caught at the end by Brian Guevara, though, which is a big upset.
Wow, okay.
But it was good. Guevara looked really good in that match. We also have Pedro Falcon versus Christian Guzman. Christian Guzman's, we've covered him for a lot of years. Fun to watch. So the whole card looks phenomenal. Fight Pass Invitational usually runs pretty quick. This one is actually going to be on Thursday, October 10th, so it's a midweek card. Again, I am looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. Corey, any kind of closing thoughts on the card?
No, I look forward to this. Yeah, I like these quick events. You know, the events that run like 4, 5, 6 hours. No, I'm not down with that.
But I'm just old.
But these events goes well. They go quickly, and I think
and the flow is good. Usually.
We're gonna get the best punch because these are super matches. These are they're not brackets. You know, you don't see each person going through 4 or 5 different people. It's a mano, one and done. So I think we're gonna get everyone's best punch. You know,
I also love it's nine matches. Like there may be some more earlier, but like the card, like it runs quick. These are how long most grappling cards should be.
Yes.
Thinking that event window, 2.5 hours. Imagine if a baseball game, I was gonna say, like a football game, lasts a couple hours, like 2.5 hours, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Grappling cards for some reason love to run like 4 and 5 hours.
Too much.
Guys, just especially on a Thursday.
Yeah.
I love Thursday cards that are about 2 hours. I want them to start at like 7 o'clock and at 9:30.
That'd be perfect.
Like that is the way to do a card, because then you just can't keep my interest for that long. It's not like a whole sports game
Sure.
where it's like you follow the action. It's like each match is an individual match. Run them short, keep them sweet. I'll watch the whole thing and have a great time. So I think Fight Pass is doing a phenomenal job with the production on these, and honestly with the pacing on them. So looking forward to it. Corey, any other thoughts on that, or any other fun stuff for the week you got going on?
Final thoughts on this one. I hope everyone stays healthy. I hope no one pulls out the last moment. I'm not throwing that out there. I'm just kind of hoping everyone just maintains status quo.
Show drops Tuesday. It's like Tuesday morning. It's like, and is replaced. You're like, cool. That entire preview doesn't mean anything now.
Yeah. So, but no, it's going to be exciting. Can't wait for it. This coming weekend, just working throughout the week and hanging out with my family weekend. I'm being the proud soccer dad I am.
Nice, as per usual. I would say like we should come over and watch this, but I coach at the university on Thursday, and so it's like I may be like, hey guys, you guys finish up. I'm gonna go back watch UFC Fight Pass Invitational because it'll be fun. This would be a card that I definitely turn on midweek. Again, I just hope that they don't start at like 8 or something like that Eastern time, or like 9. They don't start super late. And of course I'm not logged in on this computer. Awesome. So I can't actually check the, what time does this start? Yeah, I don't know. It says, okay, so it's 8 p.m. Eastern time. Okay.
Yeah, 8 p.m.
10:30. I can deal with that on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Again, I hope it runs about 2 hours. That'd be great. And they usually do keep pretty good pacing. So yeah, 8 p.m. Eastern time, October 10th, Thursday. Should be a lot of fun. Again, I love how well the UFC does like their branding and their. I feel like I'm watching a real professional card. Yeah. They have the money to support it, and it's great. But I would love more organizations to take a look at like some of the basic stuff that these guys do and just go, oh, this is awesome. Like we have event preview. Here's the fight card. Here's the rules. Here are your commentators. Brandon. I can never pronounce Brandon's last name.
McGaffron and Matt Arroyo.
Matt Arroyo, like
2 excellent black belts.
Excellent.
I watch a lot of their videos online.
Excellent commentators. Yes. Like I love the flair they bring to commentary. It's phenomenal. Like know their stuff, know about the athletes, know the histories, and it's great. You know, it's. I know what's happening the week out. Just give me some splash screens. Other events, just give me a website, give me some splash screens. Yes. It's a phenomenal way. Look what Ocean BJJ did. Beautiful splash screen, beautiful animations. Like I know what the event's going to be and run. So that's it. I got nothing fun this week other than I got some field work that I'm doing this week, and then I got Fight Pass Invitational, and we'll break it down. So I got nothing else. Corey, anything else?
No, sir. Done.
As always on the show, I'm your host, Mange, and the co-host,
Corey.
And we are the Grappling Rants, and that what it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.